When we talk about the audible voice of God, it is more of a spiritual voice than a physical voice. It's not one of the voices you will go and then you will begin to hear. Maybe the Lord spoke to your ear and said, "Thus says the Lord." For the sake of those who have never heard the audible voice of God before, let me help you. The audible voice of God is not the way you think it is. 99% of people who said, "I heard God audibly," they lie. Because the audible voice of God is a supernatural encounter. How many of you realize that? Having access to the audible voice of God is same as having access to raising the dead. Because the audible voice of God, it is heard from a high dimension where you have the ability to discern that voice. So it is not a voice where you discern just by doing anything. You must generate that energy. You must create that atmosphere. You must create that environment to understand that when the Lord speaks, you can pick up the signals. So a man that is able to discern the audible voice or to hear the audible voice is just a man who is able to generate an energy within his environment. That when the Lord speaks, you can hear him. You can hear him and still don't understand him. Hearing God does not mean you are understanding him. Everybody can hear the audible voice of God, but few can discern it. So people do not hear God audibly because of their inability to discern that audible voice. Not that God did not speak, but they could not discern it. They were lacking the ability to discern that voice. Let me tell you something. The Lord can enter right in this church and speak audibly, and only one or maybe everybody may miss it, because the audible voice of God, it can be a vibration of a room, but that vibration need to be discerned by a man who is in the realm of the spirit to hear that voice and know that this vibration is an audible voice, but not just a vibration. So when the Lord speaks from his realm, the physical things in the atmosphere vibrate God's voice to the atmosphere. So when it is raining and you hear you say, "Oh, cover yourself, cover yourself." Now hear this well. So God speaks from a realm, and when God speaks from that realm, the environment in that realm takes advantage of the spoken word. So hear this. When the Lord speaks, the environment hears. The only one who don't hear is you. So the environment have to vibrate it to your realm. So God speaks from the realm of the spirit. The environment receive it, now vibrate it so that you can discern. Because sometimes you need a physical sign to discern the audible voice of God. So the environment even helps us in discerning God's voice, especially audible voices. So there are many people who said, "I heard it loud and clear in my ear." Those of us who are old in this business, we know they are lying. There are many ways you can prophesy. You don't have to tell the crowd, "I heard it loud and clear." Let's tell them the Lord said, Acts 9 verses 3. The Bible says, "And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shone round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I am Jesus whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he trembling and astonished said, Lord, what wilt thou have me do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told thee what thou must do. 7. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. Give me this scripture that I will use to help you. Acts 22:7. And I fell unto the ground, and I heard a voice saying unto me, Saul, Saul, why persecutest thou me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? And he said unto me, I am Jesus of Nazareth, whom thou persecutest. 9. And they that were with me saw indeed the light, and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spoke to me. The Bible is contradicting each other. Acts 9 said they heard the voice, but see no man. Acts 22 said that they saw the light, but they heard no voice. Whenever you see this, we need to discern who was the one talking. Here, this was Paul himself now talking. Paul was now giving an account of what happened. But the first one, it was not Paul who gave that account. So if I have an encounter and I'm telling you this is what happened, you believe my encounter. You don't believe the one who came and then is now reporting it. Believe my report. So this was Paul giving his own report. That the people saw the light, but they heard no voice. Is it that they heard no voice? No, they heard a voice. But there was a replacing here. The word heard there in Greek, the meaning is what? they discern no voice. They did not discern the voice. So which means they heard Paul and somebody speaking, but they could not discern that voice. There was a vibration in their atmosphere, but they were lacking the ability to discern the vibration. There was a sound in their realm, but they could not discern that sound. Now, the Bible said Jesus on the mountain of transfiguration, when Jesus climbed the mountain and then he was praying, he went with Peter, James, and John. Now, the Bible said when Jesus was on top of the mountain, this is what happened. When Jesus was on top of the mountain praying, Elijah and Moses appeared to him. All of a sudden, a light shone from heaven on the face of Jesus. Peter, James, and John saw the encounter and they heard a voice saying, "This is my beloved son, hear him." The Bible says, and then Moses and Elijah disappeared, leaving only Jesus, which is a sign that Jesus is a big deal. After everything has been said and done, Jesus is a big deal. Forget about the prophets, forget about the law. Jesus is the big deal. Now, this is the miracle here. The miracle here is that the Bible said Peter, James, and John heard the voice, but the crowd that was standing down the mountain, at the banks of the mountain, the Bible said that they heard a thunder and they said it thundered. In other words, God spoke. So when God was speaking, thunder took advantage of the voice of God and vibrated into the natural atmosphere. Those who were spiritual heard God's voice in the thunder, but those who were carnal saw it as thunder. So the next time it thundered, somebody have actually heard it as voice. You are the only one who heard it as thunder. So audible voices is just like God speaking to us using the environments. You need to be spiritual to discern them. Very spiritual. Sometimes an audible voice can be a sound of a trumpet. How many of you heard a sound of a trumpet? You didn't know where the trumpet or a sound of a horn, and in your house there is no big car. You just be there. Pom, pom. That was not a car horn. Most of them, that was God speaking audibly with a vibration of a car horn in the natural environment. But you heard a horn. You came and said, "Who is that?" No, sir. It's an audible voice of God. So you see how supernatural God's audible voices. It's a supernatural encounter on its own. Very, very supernatural encounter. So you just need the ability to discern it. Look, there is no single individual who said, "I have not heard God audibly before." You have heard him audibly, but you couldn't discern the voice audibly. You were lacking the ability to discern that voice. That is the problem we are having with people. Those who are waiting for God to speak in their left ear. If God whisper into your left ear, to blow. Somebody said, "The Lord whisper into my left ear." I heard it. There is a whispering in the realm of the spirit. It says, somebody begin to pray. There is a whispering. No. The Bible said in the book of John 12:28, the Bible said, "Father, glorify thy name." And a voice came from heaven. "I have glorified it and I will glorify it again." The crowd standing heard it and said, "It has tended." So to hear the audible voice of God, you need to be in a spiritual position, a very influential spiritual position to be able to discern it, because it is more of discerning than hearing. You can hear and don't understand, but you cannot discern and still do not understand. When you discern it, you understand it. So that is why you need to discern it. The next time a cow do moo, discern voice. When a dog is barking, like I said initially, if you are not in that realm, you cannot hear that dog. You think he's making noise. But there is another man who can discern the barking of a dog. Do you know that as a prophet of God, a baby can be crying and I'll pick a voice out of that baby? Let me leave it at the natural realm. Before I even goes to that dimension, let me set this example. Do you know that at the health settings, when they comes in with a baby who cannot talk and the baby is crying, they can discern what the baby is saying. They can say, "This is the part of the baby that is paining." So after they address it, the baby will stop crying. Sometimes, I don't know how they do it, but a mother can say that the small baby who is not talking, stomach is paining. Sometimes I ask them, "How do you know?" Why? They have now related with the baby to understand. They discern the cry of the baby. They can discern it. They know when the baby is hungry. So when the baby's stomach is paining, they cry. When they are hungry, they cry. When their ear is paining, they cry. But they are able to discern the voices, differentiate, discern the voice in the cry. To say today, he's not hungry, it is the stomach. They say today, it's not like the ear, he's hungry. Now, sometimes you ask yourself, how are women able to do this? You may be wondering how it happens, but if you live with a baby for 1 month, you begin to discern those things. You begin to discern them. Why? Because after you live with that baby, the baby invites you to his realm. So you are now sharing an atmosphere. The baby understands your language. You too, you need to understand the language of the baby. So babies even understand what mothers say. So that is why you need to be careful what you say even if they cannot speak back, because they can hear what you say. They know it. That's why you can shout at a baby who is not talking, and the baby will begin to cry, because you know that this shouting, no, it's not a good shout. You look at a baby and begin to laugh, and the baby to begin to laugh. They discern, they know, they can discern, they can smell your emotions. This is just the natural realm. They still discern when the mother is happy or when the mother is not happy. That you can give birth to a child behaving the way you were behaving whilst you were having the pregnancy. So it is only the mother who cannot discern how the baby feels in the womb. Why? Because the mother is a fallen woman. But at least a pregnant woman who is walking sometimes supposed to stop and say, "What did you say?" And the baby will talk. The mother will hear, and the mother will talk back. The baby will hear. Why? They are in the natural realm. They have fallen. That's the Adam realm. The supernatural realm is also the same. There's no differences in that realm. I have seen that realm.